Welcome to the session today. It's been a real pleasure being asked to be part of this, and you'll see I have 3 of my 4 panel members here. We're just trying to sort that out, but as we do that, just to give you a little bit of context as to why you're seeing who you're seeing, and then I'll let folk introduce themselves. So, having worked in recruitment for a considerable amount of my career, it was a real privilege to be asked to chair this today. So a lot of my contacts and people I know personally that I'd consider as friends as well are very passionate about diversity and inclusion and encouraging females in all aspects of their businesses. And when you look at a lot of organisations in the Northeast, there is a huge untapped pool of people who potentially could take up some of these roles. So I have a good picture of that, and I've got insight into companies that are good at it and that are not so good at it, and also their employees, but more importantly, how they are dealing with their culture and developing and nurturing that. The values, purpose and vision of an organisation is really key, and usually they have employees who've got a similar skill set to that and a values set. So what we've done today is we've divided this into 2 sections for you. So we're not just talking at you for the whole time. So the first 2 speakers we have are Claudia Wootten and Joan Todd. Claudia is a business systems director for a software company called Turnitin, and Joanne is a program director with NHS-BSA. After we've done that session, there'll be an opportunity for Q&A on chat. And then our 2 other speakers, Marianne Whitfield is here. Marianne's the one with a really interesting background and really super cool kit in the background. And she's a director with a precision engineering organisation called MSP. And Simon Parker, who you can't see just yet, but we're just trying to get him onto the session, is a CIO with Home Group, which is one of the largest housing providers, social housing providers in the UK. So I'd like to start by introducing Claudia and Joanne. And you can't arm wrestle, but you are next to each other. You could pretend as to who wants to go first. So whoever would like to start. Claudia, you're going to do it. Joanne's gone.
She's gone. Just asking her. She just decided to leg it. So I think it makes sense if I do. I've put together a few slides, so I'm just going to share my screen with everyone, and hopefully this works. Let me know. Can you see some slides?
No.
No. Oh well.
Not yet.
No. What can you see?
I've just got 3 pictures, Claudia. Do you want to send them to me?
Right. Yeah, it's not letting me share. It's fine because I can just talk through them. Joanne's back. We've got some feedback. And so, Joanne, I'm going to go first if that's okay with you. I can't get my slides to share, which is a bit of a pain, but never mind. So my story is kind of just to give you a little bit of background. I'm a senior director at a company called Turnitin. So we are an EdTech software company. And I got here through, like most people into IT, a little bit of a convoluted route. I left school with A levels in English, ceramics, music, art, and theatre studies. Originally, I was going to be a ballet dancer, but obviously that didn't pan out very well. But once I learned about technology, IT, and what it could do and what a kind of fascinating career I could have, I launched myself into that world. And for me, technology has been an absolutely amazing career. It's taken me all over the world, and I've worked with a wide range of technologies, from COBOL, being a COBOL programmer back in the late 80s, to where I am today as a director for what we call business systems. Basically, I run the back office, sales, and operation systems for a software company. I'm worked quite extensively in the world of Salesforce, which is the technology that I am using today. And at the end of the presentation, I'm going to come on to a little bit about Salesforce. But I just wanted to kind of, give the flavour of my career, because whilst I'm fascinated by technology and what we can do with it, the real highlights of my career have always been related to kind of the businesses that I've got to understand, the people that I've met, and the worlds that I've worked in. And it's never just been about the technology. I've gone from a COBOL programmer at the Prescription Pricing Authority to the senior director role I'm in today. And that was by ways of working in banking, in airline industry, in the civil service, and in logistics. If you really want to see all of that detail, do connect with me on LinkedIn, and I'd be happy to share some of the stories from my 30 years in technology. But that's just a little bit of background. What I really wanted to talk to today is about why I ended up at Turnitin, and what Turnitin is about, and why we're passionate about diversity. And so Turnitin are passionate about a lot of things. We are an ed tech company. And our strapline is that we're passionate about helping students learn. And so we provide ed technology software as a service that provide tools to what we call instructors, but basically teachers in secondary and higher education the world over. And these tools help students engage in the writing process in terms of the work that they submit into their courses or studies. And we enable instructors to provide personalised feedback and to assess student progress. So anyone who's worked or been through education in the last 10, 15 years will know Turnitin and the Turnitin brand. We're used by more than 30 million students at 15,000 institutions in 140 countries. And we're HQ'd in Oakland, California. So we are a true Bay Area tech company. And the perspective that I have on that is quite interesting. So I've worked my career either in Newcastle or a lot of it in London as well. And I've worked in quite a lot of sort of large standard corporate organizations. And, as I was thinking about my next role at the beginning of this year, I heard about Turnitin and became really interested in them, and not in the least because of the culture and the environment that they are creating. And it's quite an unusual culture and environment to find slap bang in the middle of Newcastle upon Tyne in the UK. Sorry, there's lots of buzzing going on my phone. I'm hoping everyone can still hear me okay.
Fine, Claudia. Yeah, sorry.
Just checking. So the culture was what initially attracted me to Turnitin, and because we're an American company, Turnitin have got a very American kind of view on diversity and inclusion. And in 2016, Turnitin were one of the 33 technology companies that signed the Tech Inclusion Pledge, where basically made 3 pledges. One was to implement and publish company-specific goals to recruit, retain and advance diverse technology talent. The second one was to annually publish data and progress metrics on the diversity of the workforce. And the third one was to invest in partnerships to build a diverse pipeline of technology talent to increase our ability to recognise, develop and support talent from all backgrounds. So to work in this very US focused company with some very strong kind of educational ethos within the organization was really kind of something that really drew me to the company. And the Tech Inclusion Pledge is something in the States which is run by the National Centre for Women and Information Technology, NCWIT, which strapline is revolutionising the face of technology. So basically, just like many organisations and like this session today in the States, they're very much focusing on raising the number of women that are entering the technology sphere. As anyone who works in technology knows, in this country, getting skilled and experienced. Ooh, feedback. getting skilled and experienced resource is really, really difficult. In the Bay Area, San Francisco, it is absolutely impossible to recruit and retain skilled and experienced technical resource because of the high density of technology companies within that area. So one of the things that we at Turnitin, as a really small technology company in the scheme of the Facebooks and the Airbnbs and the Ubers and a million other companies of that stature, we have to look at other ways to recruit and retain, and building a culture where people want to come has been something that is successful for us, not only in the States, but in the UK and globally. We create a culture where people thrive, where women and people from minority groups can actually thrive and be part of, part of something. And I think it's a really proud boast of Turnitin, even though we're a small company. The gender balance in our leadership roles is 54% in favour of female people occupying leadership roles. Have to say that when we look at the absolute technical roles in the organisation, we are still only at 24% that are female. So we're doing really well in the leadership stakes, and we are hoping that using the leverage of having women in leadership positions, having women in the positions where decisions are made, hiring decisions especially, we can make those decisions in favour of building a truly diverse workforce. And this is also goes across what we call, it's all diversity, not just gender, but ethnicity as well, where we are absolutely striving to become a workforce that reflects the populations that we work in, not just in the States, but also in the UK and the other countries that we operate in around the world. And one of the things that I just wanted to talk about really briefly today is one of the great ways that I think women can start to build careers in technology. So, so many technologies out there today, and SaaS software as a service, I think provides a really great starting point for women to start to understand the power of these technologies, what they can do for businesses, but also to get into jobs where they can develop skills and knowledge in these SaaS technologies. And one of them I feel really, really passionate about is Salesforce. So for people that don't know, Salesforce is a SaaS technology. It is about 18 years old. It's, pretty much a baby in the scheme of things. But it's a technology that's growing day by day. It has a whole ecosystem that is out there. But more importantly, the labour market for people with knowledge and ability to configure and code in the Salesforce ecosystem is absolutely in the highest demand at the moment. And for women who are looking to transition their careers or to get into technology, they're returners, from taking extended leave for caring or, travel or whatever other reasons, it really is a place where you can go and through self-directed learning that is available free online, you can start to build knowledge and experience in these technologies that could well take you into a very successful job in a highly in roles that are in high demand across the country, in the UK and the world, to be frankly honest with you. And to support this, I've set up a group in Newcastle. We are in our complete infancy, but we have set up a group called the Newcastle upon Tyne Salesforce Women in Technology Group, and it is for women, allies and gender non-binary individuals who are part of the Salesforce ecosystem in the Northeast, so that we can meet, discuss and actively support ways to advance gender equality in the workplace and beyond. And the group is for women and gender non-binary individuals who are currently working in the Salesforce ecosystem, are interested in or want to be part of it, or would benefit from it because, they are a returner to employment, or, potentially they are in positions such as, migrants who have come to this country and are looking to develop their skills and capability and move into paid employment. And we are a group that are meeting to support these aims and agendas. And what we do is meet, and at the moment obviously virtually, but we raise awareness of the career opportunities available to women, provide opportunities for members to build up professional network, showcasing members' skills and experience, providing knowledge and education, support and provide access to mentoring network, giving guidance, especially to those who want to enter or applying through recruitment for opportunities. And we also support those entering the workforce after leaving education. Really happy to work with, education leavers to help them on their first step into the world of work. And as I said before, those re-entering the workforce after career break. So I feel like I've talked quite a bit there, and I'm sorry that the slides weren't available to share. But that's just a little bit about my journey and where I've come from, and also why I'm really passionate about gender diversity, why I've chosen an organisation that values diversity and actually actively seeks diversity in its workforce, and also what I'm doing in my really small way to support and help that as well.
Thanks, Claudia. That's brilliant. The link to that group, do you think you could share it on the chat?
I shall do that now.
That would be perfect. I can't see any questions coming up in the chat. So for those of you who are listening, if you have any questions or any things that you want to clarify, once Joanne has talked about how she's in a technology director role, then perhaps we can look at the chat from there. Joanne, can we hand over to you? Thank you very much.
I'm going to try. I have been bouncing in and out, so I apologise if it freezes, but I'll keep going regardless. So my name's Joan Todd. I am very similar to Claudia's journey in a way. Back in my day in potted history, I went to an all-girls school, and going to an all-girls school, nobody told me that there was anything that I couldn't do. That was a bit shattered when I went to university and actually joined a course where I was the only girl on the whole course. So that kind of gave me a little bit of a shock, and kind of going, oh, hold on a minute, why does a girl want to do this and not necessarily in a kind of male-dominated world? Did it bother me? Probably not, because I kind of that was the norm for me, and I moved forward in my career. So I joined British Airways as a graduate straight out of university to learn how to code. I don't even know why I ended up there, because I'd done an engineering degree. But kind of joined in that, but realised very quickly that actually I was very better at talking than I was at coding necessarily. But however, there was still careers inside the technical arena that didn't mean that I had to be a coder, that I had to be a developer, that I had to be any of those things. I moved on from there into working with British Telecom, again in more of a consultancy kind of delivery role, looking at how we managed projects, how we got programs out there, managing customers, doing all of that kind of piece. I've landed now, and the reason Sue's asked me to kind of join this panel today is I now work for the NHS BSA. So that is the Business Services Authority for the NHS family. Now, what it does is it does all sorts of things. It pays all of the pensioners from the NHS, it pays all of the pharmacists and all of the dentists, and it provides a delivery arm inside the NHS family. I work inside the technology area there. I'm a program director, which is a very grand title, which just means that I orchestrate a lot of work and get it delivered. And I'm also head of technology governance, another grand title, but in effect what that means is we've created a function which looks at building a kind of sales arm, but internal to the organisation. And if those two roles weren't enough, I have recently, since the start of May, moved into working in the Department for Health and Social Care, and actually set up the test and trace service that you all love or don't love, as the case may be. And I'm about to second into there to take on a Director of Operations role inside Trace. Now, all of that sounds like I had a really great career plan, and I really knew where I was going, and I wanted to do all of that. But in real honesty, I think the biggest skills that I have, that I bring to this, are actually the ability to talk to people, the ability to build teams and work with teams, and the capabilities that actually I utilize in my everyday life. So, you know, I'm a mum, I've got a 12-year-old, I've got to get him to school on time, I've got to make sure I get the food in, do all of that, and a full-time job. But actually, those are all transferable skills. And I think the big thing for me inside the NHS and inside central government, because I've done a lot of work in central government, is about looking at those transferable skills to build the diversity, because you don't just have to come in with your career and your degree and your coding skills. There are lots of other skills that you bring to a technology environment that aren't necessarily around very formal coding and very formal tech skills. And you know, the reason I've got to where I am today is because of those more communication skills. Sorry, and I'm not sure if I've frozen again or not.
It's a little bit jittery, but we can still hear you, Joanne. Now we can't. Sorry, we're just waiting for Joanne to rejoin. For some reason, the signal keeps popping in and out. No.
Can I do a sound test then? Can you hear me?
Simon, welcome. We can see a blank screen, but at least we can hear you. Thank goodness you're here.
Yeah,
Excellent.
Sorry about that. I showed nothing, didn't I?
Don't worry. While we're waiting for Joanne to join back in again, this is something that Claudia doesn't. Oh, here we go. There you go, Joanne.
Can you see and hear me?
We can.
Right. I'm not sure how far I got in my potted history, so I don't know if you want to tell me what you got up to, Sue.
We just got into the place and talk about transferable skills from everything we do in the house with children and jobs and stuff.
Yeah, so I think that the biggest thing for me is that actually recognizing that you have those skills, but you don't necessarily frame them in the same way as you would with respect to a job advert. And I think one of the big things I like to do with people that we bring on, particularly in the NHS, so we're very big on bringing people back into the workforce from returners, but also ex-military personnel, and also looking at apprenticeships. But it's about looking at all of those skills that you don't think you have on that job spec, but you do have, you just don't frame them in the right way. And it's about learning to recognize those skills and frame them appropriately. And that's something across the whole of the NHS that and a lot of central government, there's a big push to try and help people to do that, and to use those transferable skills. So when you see that job advert that says, you know, can you be a program manager? Have you got the ability to build teams? Can you do a lot of the, can you multitask? Do you have communication skills? You've got all of those that you just aren't necessarily saying are the same language as those. So yes, you can multitask because you run your life and you run all of the different things in your life that work that way. And those are the key things that in my career have stood me in better stead than necessarily my technical qualifications. So I do have some of them, but in real terms, it's more about being able to interact with people and being able to move forward from there. So I don't know, Sue, if you want any more than that or you've got any questions.
No, thanks, Joanne. One thing we haven't said is how you've been a great advocate within the NHS for getting jobs as well.
Yeah, I'm not very good at kind of blowing my own trumpet very much, but yes, from my perspective, it's all about making sure that people can pull through. And you know, if you have the will and want to do something, then I would love to work with people to help bring them through and get them up to a higher level inside the organisation. So one of the biggest things that I gain out of this is that helping my teams grow. And actually, I would like nothing better than for them to pass me and continue on that upward journey.
That's great. Thanks very much.
Does anybody have any questions that they'd like to put in the chat, or shall we just press on? Very aware of people's time, and it looks like it might be getting sunny outside, which is nice. Right, I think we'll just crack on. So Marianne and Simon both work for very different types of organisations to Claudia and Joanne, and in many respects I've looked at this from different sides of things. I don't know who would like to go first, perhaps Marianne or Simon. Simon, do you want to jump in?
Yeah,
just in case we lose you again.
Yeah, quite happy to have a go. I think I'm here to stay, but without video. Apologies. The application says I don't have a camera, and I clearly do, but I don't know. So it's great to be here. Apologies for being late, and apologies if I go over any other ground that we've already covered. I'm Simon Parker. I'm the IS group. We are a very large housing association, one of the top 10 in the UK. With housing and indeed lots of support services across the UK. I run an IT team of probably, I think we're around just a little over 100 people at the moment. I just did the check on Oracle earlier today, and 23.4% of the team are women. I didn't have to check Oracle for my direct reports. 3 out of the 6 of my senior management team are women. And of the larger management team, which includes anyone who's broadly got the title of manager, we shall shortly, after someone starts, very shortly be 6 out of 13, so almost 50% of the broader management team. So actually the management team reflects more women than the general population in the team, which I think is a real positive. Home group itself, I've almost worked here for 2 years. We do pride ourselves on a sort of equality and diversity and inclusion agenda in the work we do. It's the second organisation I've worked in which has been really strong on this. I was a Department of Work and Pensions before that, and both teams worked very hard to be more inclusive. For me, it's something that's very important. Now, there's a sense of fairness, I think, that I've got in that, you know, everyone should get the same crack of the whip, and everyone get the same opportunities, regardless of gender or sexuality or race or anything else. But there's also just a very pragmatic thing here that if you're not inclusive of women, you've lost sort of half of your talent base. You make a much more restricted choice in who you can bring in and use. And as you discriminate, you just get a smaller and smaller talent pool. Why wouldn't you want the best of everybody? And I think to the extent I've been successful in my career, it's because I've gone for the total pool of everybody that's out there. You're just going to get better people. And it really is as simple as that. I think it's important at this stage that I think there's an increasing realization of that, not just across the sector in IT, but generally in society, that things are clearly on the move at the moment. We've got everything that's happened with COVID, which has changed the way we work, but everything that's happened in the sort of the Black Lives Matter movement as well. It feels like it isn't very much a time for change, which I think is a sort of increasing an open door to be pushed at. I think there's been a lot done in equality in terms of legislation historically, but it's really the mindset change that things are different. I think Claudia was saying about working in the States, and I worked in the States in sort of, I guess, the early 2000s, and I worked then as part of an all-white, all-male management team of about 15 in IS, up to a CIO there, a Texan, and the only women ever in the room were pretty and taking notes. It wouldn't happen now. Everyone, there was a kind of acceptance of this is okay. I just don't think that would happen now. That mindset has changed. It would be seen as being narrow. It would be seen as being poor management or leadership. And to my point about skills, it would be seen as we're not making the best of the talent we have in the organisation. Really proud to work for a home group that don't take that approach. We try to be very inclusive. We're in Stonewall's top 100. We're 18th this year. We are in the Great Place to Work 10th super large organisation, and we're also 6th on the best places to work for women. I'm very proud of that. I noticed we talked about Salesforce. Salesforce, I put the link in there. They're actually top this year of places to work for women. Interestingly, SAP are also up there in the top 5 as well. And you're looking at technology companies being the best places to work for women. And that's interesting, isn't it? Because we're saying, here's all the challenges about tech and women getting into tech. And yet some of the top places that employees reckon to work are tech companies.
Yeah.
Now, that's a great place to work. There's lots of other surveys, but one thing I would say is top tips for people trying to break into IT, and there's go and do your research. Go and look up those companies, because some companies, I think, will be very closed. And I moved on from one about 4 years ago to join DWP, which had a very competitive, masculine senior management culture, which was, I would say, fairly toxic. It was one of the main reasons I moved on. Go and do your research. If you go and work in one of those companies, all the best of luck to you, but you might be spending a lot of time banging your head against a brick wall or a glass ceiling. There are plenty of companies there that I think are far more enlightened, of which DWP I think were fairly enlightened, and I certainly think Home Group are, where there's that realization, not through legislation or through anything else, but if we don't tap into the total talent pool, we are missing out, and we will not be as successful as other companies. And I'll just finish on this note and then pass back to Sue. The BBC in the last week highlighted, I think, on their news channel, that there had been a survey done in London of the top companies in London, and the ones that had more than 1/3 of their top team being women were more successful than the ones that didn't. And those are the sort of things that drive change, because that's a wake-up call to all organisations to go, what are we doing? What do we need to do to be more successful?
Yeah. And thanks, Simon. And I suppose it's in this environment that we're in now, it's very difficult without slides and without sharing some of the good stuff that I know has happened within Turnitin and also BSA and Home Group and undoubtedly MSP, about how they are really focused on changing that mindset. Can I just ask you a question on that mindset change, Simon? Who drove it? So where did that come from? Did it come from the workforce, or did it come from the top, or did it come from HR, or?
That's a very good question, because I think there's one thing going on in Home Group, but clearly the same thing was happening in DWP and elsewhere in society in general. I think there's just some of these. I think it's just society changes gradually, doesn't it? And the mindset change is more fundamental than the legislation change or the rules and regulation changes. And I think it's probably come from all areas. I think there's definitely been a bottom-up empowerment of women to more self-belief. I thought Sonia was very good this morning. She said about confidence. She talked very much about confidence, which for me, my notes and my advice was, have confidence for lots of very good reasons at this time.
Yeah.
So there's some of that upward push of, hey, I'm here and I want the opportunity. I think you've also got a top-down, maybe just driven by the hard numbers of, if we want to do well, we need to be more inclusive. And that realization and those things coming together. And I think you get this groundswell of changes in society we're seeing at the moment, which sort of says that this is the time. And then I think different people from the different areas of the team will grow in confidence to say it's time to change things. We do in Home Group in particular have a great deal of emphasis on our culture and our values. Certainly, other organisations' values are off posted on the wall. This is driven out of HR. Everybody has a day of a year out, just living our values and refresher on what it's all about. We go through to the teams. We make sure it's cascaded in our conversations with everybody and our objectives. You know, you need, if you want to get on our company, you need to live the values, and those values are very inclusive, equality-driven values.
And it's interesting you picked up on the confidence piece. When we were talking about this panel, one of the things that is really widely known is that if there's a job specification and it's got 10 bits of criteria or key skills, a male would apply even if they only had 3 or 4, whereas a female would need to tick 10. And I remember you saying, well, that's what I would do, which is really interesting. How, and sorry to put you on the spot, but I can't see your face, so it doesn't feel as though I am. How would you react if somebody applied for a job, a female applied for a job, and they didn't hit all the criteria?
I would say rarely anyone applies for any of the jobs and hits all the criteria. I'd be more surprised if a woman applied and did hit all the criteria, because that's generally not the case. I think the criteria often, we think recruiters just know what they're doing all the time. And sorry, with you being in as a professional,
no,
more than most. But let's face it, a lot of job adverts are put together just by companies, and they just put a wish list of all the things they'd like. It's not a list of essentials. They go, oh, we need this, and they just 20 things, brainstorm and then send it out and go, that's what we need. And then nobody hits it. I recall I brought it, but sadly I can't show you. It was the advert which I kept, which is out of Computer Weekly for the job, which wanted 20 different things that I needed to do. And to your point, I thought I could tick the box well on 4 of them. And I thought there was another 4 that at a stretch I could demonstrate some transferable skills. And I looked at that list with well, I can't do this. And my wife said, well, what's the point of applying? I said, no one can do all this stuff.
Yeah.
It's a witness. Take it like that.
One of the attendees has just put a note on the comment. Then why is the criteria there? Recruitment is broken. Anyone else on the panel want to comment on that? Because I have that challenging question a number of times if I was talking to a client who said, well, they've got to have all of these. So what would your comments be, Claudia?
I think one of the
You're on mute. Sorry, I'll just unmute you.
Am I there?
There you go. Sorry, I can hear you now. Yeah.
Okay. So one of the interesting conversations I had just last week was I'm looking for a project coordinator, and I was asked by somebody why I hadn't put down a degree as one of the must-have criteria. And I'm very, very adamant that you don't need to have studied for 3 years at university to be a great project coordinator. And, often we set these barriers, and maybe Simon agree that people just, don't need to hit, never mind can't hit. And it really does drive the wrong ethos. And it's, it becomes a tick in the box that, I know that there are these systems in recruitment where it looks for certain things and then spits you out at the end if you fulfill them. And I think things like that are taking away from, the human touch that some recruitment agencies do kind of go through, or recruitment companies go through, to make sure that it's the right person for the right job rather than the right person with the right qualifications. Yeah.
Marianne, what's your opinion of this? Not that I know you have real strong opinions on things, but I know you will.
Well, yeah, I think I would agree. I think with what Simon was saying, it's just a wish list. When you put together a job spec, you think of what, or maybe you kind of think of all of the things that somebody might need to do at some point in the role that they're going to be doing. But they're not things that people are going to have to do from day one. And they're not things that they're going to have to do all of the time. But when you're thinking about the type of person you want or the skills that you need, I think people do tend to go a little bit overboard with recruitment and recruitment adverts in terms of job spec. Yeah, definitely.
Thank you. Simon, I'm just going to pass on to Marianne, our final panelist today. Let's have a sort of an insight into the world of precision engineering and real, like, clever tech, or is all tech clever? I don't know. You tell me.
Okay, thanks very much, Sue. Right, so I'm Marianne, Director of Development at MSP. MSP is a software company. We're based up in Alnwick in Northumberland, and I've been there for just over 2 years. Previous to being at MSP, I ran my own publishing business for about 20 years. But about 2.5 years ago, I decided I was bored and wanted to change. And I'm one of those people who, when you talk about courage, people, you know, it's not much courage, but I think that I've always been goal-oriented as well. And if I see that there's an opportunity somewhere, then I'll go for it. So I've been based in tech since university. And the reason that I got into tech originally, I wanted to do operations management, because at the time Nissan was opening up, and as a new employer and as a big Japanese employer, I thought that the career opportunities there would be great. I also babysat for one of the directors at Nissan, one of the head honchos, and he paid me a fortune to babysit him. So I thought, well, it might pay me a fortune if I go and work there. But anyway, when I was at university, I decided not to do operations. I did business with IT, and I got heavily into IT after a conversation with somebody over a meal, where they ran their own data processing business, and they were having problems at the time. They had various mainframe systems and things, and they wanted to be able to get that data and create graphs and charts and things like that. And they didn't know how to do it because they were just processing bits and bytes. And at the time, I'd spent my first student loan on a PC with the first version of Microsoft Office, which had Microsoft Access in it. Basically, I charged this guy quite a lot of money as an IT consultant, kind of pretended that I was already doing this kind of stuff, charged him quite a lot of money, and basically took his data, put it through Microsoft Access, and then created the charts and the graphs and things that he wanted. So from that, I thought, well, I quite like this IT business. And in the placement that I did through the university course, I ended up in an organisation where I was doing kind of IT support and network administration. And then I was lucky enough to be offered the job of the IT manager when I left university. So I then got into network administration, and then I got into web development because the internet was in its infancy at the time. And I love IT as a career, predominantly because it's very, very well paid, but also because it's challenging, and it challenges you every day. And I think the only downside, really, to my career within IT has been the lack of women all the time. When I did my IT degree, I think there was 5 women on the course, and I think I'm the only one from that group that has actually stuck with an IT career. So I've moved from a long career in like the IT sector, to a career in the manufacturing sector where there's even fewer women. And yeah, I've got a team of about 20 developers in MSP. Not one of them are women. That's not for want of trying on my behalf. When I joined MSP, I was contacted by one of my long-term colleagues, associates, about the Tech Up Women project that was run through the IOC. And they were asking for organisations to support the Tech Up Women project. So I jumped at the chance, because I think, for me, one of the big problems that I've seen over the years is that I guess that the tech industry just doesn't have a good name, or doesn't seem to have a good name amongst women, because they don't really understand all of the opportunities that are there. And also, a lot of the job descriptions, for want of a better word, that we've been discussing, do have very, very specific skills on them, maybe very specific coding languages and things like that that people are looking for. And that puts people off. But as people have already mentioned, the skills that I look for when I'm recruiting are all around problem solving, project management, people management, all of those things that are the softer skills, if you like, are just as important as the technical skills that we're looking for as well. And I think certainly with the Tech Women project, what I found really fascinating was that over the course of the 6 months that people were involved in it, the confidence that everybody was demonstrating, the difference in the confidence levels was incredible between when people first started on the program and when they finished. And I love Brené Brown and the stuff that Brené Brown talked about in her Learning to Write, where she talks about being brave and having confidence and not feeling vulnerable, and that feeling vulnerable and feeling that you haven't got all of the skills that you need or whatever is a weakness. I think, there's some stuff in the chat now about, looking at things like the top places to work for women, because what I would suggest to people is that, and this is what I've done in kind of my career, is I've looked at places that I would want to work. You look for organizations that you admire or people that you admire, and find out what those organizations do and be brave enough to apply. Because I say this quite a lot, the bench within if you like, the bar within organizations isn't as high as I think people think it is. So when you're looking at applying for a job in an organization, you think that you have to have all of these skills and you have to be able to tick all of the boxes. But in any organization, there's different levels of competence in the existing teams and the existing staff that are there. And so you have to be brave and you have to have the courage to apply for it and put your name forward, and not feel vulnerable, and don't let that imposter syndrome take over where you think that you're just not going to be good enough for the role that really interests you. One of the mantras that I live by is, if you think it, it will happen. And I think that that's something that people who are looking for careers in tech, or just interesting careers, tech is everywhere now. Tech is so pervasive that no matter which organization you join, there will be tech involved in the role. One of the things that certainly MSP has learned very, very quickly over this COVID crisis is issues to do with remote working, which has always been something that maybe prevents certain women from working. But now the majority of organizations, they've got the majority of their staff working from home. So flexibility in terms of remote working and part-time working, and employers understanding that people can start work at 7 in the morning and finish at 3 if that's what they want to do, or work on an evening, make up work time that they maybe haven't been able to spend during the day. Doesn't matter. And I've had very interesting conversations with a number of people who run businesses over this period, where they've really had their eyes opened to the opportunities of flexible and remote working. And I think that that's very, very positive for women who are wanting to get into roles and work.
Interesting you mentioned that, Marianne. Most people on the call on the panel will know I run an IT director forum, and looking at the CIOs and IT directors in the region, that flexible working that's come out of this extraordinary situation has created opportunities, and where you live remotely or you work remotely up in Alnwick, it's given companies and given candidates and people an opportunity to work part-time for maybe 30 hours, where they could potentially have only done 20 because of travel and commute. Yeah. So a lot of companies I'm working with are doing that.
So both, I'm sitting down at Renishaw. Renishaw is an associate company of MSP. Renishaw employ thousands of people all over the world. MSP employ 40 people based in Annick. But the difference in attitude are very, very similar when it comes to kind of remote and flexible working. When I joined MSP, they didn't offer any remote working or flexible working at all, and I pushed to have that introduced. And there was, to be fair, there was skepticism about it. But when you're forced into a situation where on a Thursday you have to test that absolutely everybody in the company can work from home, so that by Monday, when we're going to lockdown, the business can survive, there was a brilliant test of the resilience of remote working. And my co-directors at MSP have been really impressed and really quite surprised about how easy and how well everybody has taken to it. And so we're in a position now where we're not bothered whether people come back into the office or not. We'll have people working from home. The challenge there really is just how do you integrate people into the business going forward to be bringing new staff in, but that's a good challenge to have.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Marianne. Thank you, everyone, for contributing today. And I know Joanna's listening. We just haven't got her on screen at the moment. What I'd like to do by way of wrapping this session up, and hopefully a useful question for others to hear as well, is Claudia, with you, I suppose, what advice, having obviously had your career so far and still continuing, what advice would you give yourself starting out again?
Am I switched on yet? Got volume?
Yes, you are. Yeah.
Thank you. Okay. And so the advice, I think, is actually the advice that I probably didn't give myself, but I have followed, is never say no. It's always that, what would you do if you're not afraid? I think possibly I'm afraid of a lot of things, but I've never been afraid of anything in my working life. I've just always said yes to every opportunity that has come my way. And I say I've had a career in IT and technology, but I've done things like run an airport operation in the States. When I worked for British Airways, I had amazing opportunities because I was offered a leadership opportunity. And as much as I looked at myself and thought they're asking me to do this, I just said, okay, yeah, let's get on with it. And I never thought that anything was too difficult or too hard to do. And I never, I've got 3 children. They're all beautifully grown up now. But, again, as much as I put them first, I never made them be an excuse for me not doing something. So there was always a way, somebody will always help out and help with the kids. And my husband is absolutely an amazing father and a brilliant job. And he has enabled me as well to never say no. So that's my advice.
That's really good advice. Thank you very much, Claudia. Joanne, thank you for coming back in. I know you were there in the background somewhere. So same question to you, actually.
I think mine would be recognise your own talents. I'm not very good at that. I'm still not very good at it. But I think recognising your strengths and understanding they are of value to other people would be what I would say. And it's quite a hard thing to do, because I don't think your natural instinct is to kind of go, oh, I'm not really that good at that. But actually, and having people around you who recognise them and actually tell you that as well. So building that network of people who are kind of your supporters and help you recognise where you have got those skills.
Yeah. Thank you for that, Joanne, as ever. Simon, a slightly different question for you is, what advice would you give a daughter or a significant female who is starting out now, what would you say to them?
I'd say one which came back to would be my advice for myself as well, was research, do you where you fit. You know, for me, my happiest moments in my career have been companies where I am comfortable with the values and the approach and the way they work. So find your place. Don't just go battling it out in some place where you don't fit. Persevere. Just keep going. Just keep, you know, when you get turned down, when somebody says no, when somebody says you can't do it, by and large, just ignore them and persevere. I think perseverance is great. And the thing we come back to, which I think was the theme of the keynote and has come out through here, is confidence. Just have confidence. Don't take the no, don't take the knockback, and go for it. Yeah.
So find your tribe. I think somebody said that to me. Find your tribe, and you'll be happy.
Yes, that's it.
Thank you, Simon. Marianne, giving you a couple of minutes to think about that one. What would you give? Advice would you give?
14, I would never try and give her any advice on anything. No, to be fair. My advice to my daughter all the time is to, you know, follow your passion. Find something that you're really passionate about and follow that. And what I've always said to members of my team is, you know, work is such a massive part of your life. You spend so much time doing, you know, your job that, you know, if you ever wake up in the morning and feel bored or that you don't want to do it or you can't, you know, you're not interested anymore, change it. Because, you know, you have to love what you do. So yeah, that would be my main thing. Find something that you love and follow it, because then it doesn't feel like work. It doesn't feel like work.
Yeah. Harvard had a very interesting article on that this morning, saying if you find what you love, you're more likely to burn out. So I think there's a balance, but I completely get it.
Yeah.
I just wanted to say from a personal thank you to everyone who's contributed today. And I know Joanne's not on screen because of her signal, but especially to everyone, Claudia, Marianne, Simon and Joanne, who's taken time out of what I know are super busy days, and just so thrilled that you've done this. I hope the people who are listening have had some insights, because that's all we can hope to do. I know there's a comment on there around that one of our attendees is looking for a potential mentor. Simon was obviously listening in on, so Simon got in first. But by all means, that's the best thing you can do. Find someone who has the skills you don't and learn. So that would be mine. I didn't know that till later on in my career. I wish somebody had told me that when I was younger. And if you don't like it, change it, because you're in control the controllable, which is something we've all learned over the last 20 odd weeks in this extraordinary age. But thank you for listening and bearing with us. I'm delighted to say we got through it with just a little bit of tech challenge, but thank you for taking part and thank you for listening. And thanks again, guys. Really appreciated it.